Welcome to Warfighter Sanctuary. Here, we talk with local veteran business owners, their military journey, civilian life, their business, and the services they offer.
I am the soldier's lost voice. Come on!
Lock it in and listen up. Here's your host, André Rivera.
Is this what they want?
Welcome to the Warfighter Sanctuary podcast. I'm your host, André Rivera, and today I'm proud to have my guest, Scott McLean, who's the founder of several nonprofit organizations.
Well, one nonprofit, yeah.
One nonprofit organization.
A podcast.
A podcast, and too much for me to even remember. So I'm going to we're going to go right into Scott. Scott, you're going to go ahead and brief us, please, because what he is working on is so relevant to Warfighter Sanctuary, to Veterans Resource Network, and to all the things that we're trying to accomplish here. And I always talk about network, the strength of exploiting our underexploited veteran community, our veteran network, which is extremely powerful. And today's another example of that, exactly that. So with no further ado, Scott McLean, thank you and welcome to the Warfighter Sanctuary podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure, Andre. I appreciate the invitation. Since I'm a podcaster myself,
Exactly.
I'm never the one being, the guest. I'm never on this side of the microphone.
How does it
It's
feel?
like the photographer is always behind the camera.
Yeah.
They're very rarely in front of the camera.
Exactly.
It feels
Sorry.
great. It feels great.
We played footsie for a second there off camera. Sorry about that.
I got big legs.
Yeah. His calves are like this. They're like tree trunks, man.
So, I'll start with, I'm a 10-year Air Force veteran.
Okay.
Security police, military working dog handler, the baddest of the bad.
Nice.
The only bullet you could call back. Is what I used to say, right?
Good.
I was a patrol dog handler for 2 years in the Philippines. I was a drug dog handler in Mather Air Force Base in Sacramento. A bomb dog handler down in Southern California at March Air Force Base. Did a lot of Secret Service support missions around the LA area. Then I finished my career as a drug dog handler in Albuquerque, New Mexico at Kirtland Air Force Base, where at one point I was TDY'd down to the Mexican border to supplement U.S. Customs with their drug dogs down in Nogales, Arizona, which was a very interesting 3 months.
I used to live very close to there,
Yeah.
Sierra Vista,
Yeah,
Huachuca.
exactly. So from that I got a job, and I walked right out of the military, right out of the Air Force, into U.S. Customs. I worked on an anti-terrorism, anti-smuggling unit out of MIA, Miami International Airport, as a drug dog handler. And I did that. I retired in 2019.
Wow.
And I really did nothing for a couple of years. Now, backtracking to when I was in the Air Force, I was security police, and a lot of people think security police are just the guys at the gate. They're really not. We are the
I know
police
better,
force
'cause I
inside.
spent 4 years in theater, so I know
We
better.
are the police
Yeah.
force inside these Air Force bases, Army bases, Marine bases. And these bases are like small towns. It's real life. And I just happened to be the guy at every base I went to, other than when I was out on foot patrol in the Philippines. I got those calls. I just got those calls, man. Murder, suicide, dead babies, bad domestics, to the point where I was like a magnet, but I handled them. Maybe I was put there for a reason.
Did it ever catch up to you inside?
Exactly, it caught up to me.
Because
not at the time.
Not at the time. I was about to say that. See that?
No.
Not at the time.
At the time, you go right back to work.
Right back to work.
So I just got done taking, this is kind of hardcore, but this is what happened. This is one of the worst experiences of my life. I had to take a dead baby out of a father's hands and hold him until this young airman could lay a blanket down because it was outside. It's a bad story, and I had to hand it to this kid and keep handling this situation. It was pretty intense. So what happens is, the scene is over, everything's done, and you go back to work. No one says, hey, you want to talk about that? Now, maybe at the time, in my 20s, I wouldn't have.
Even if they asked you.
Exactly,
I agree.
but they never offered.
They never offered it. It wasn't
That
even
was
an
the
option.
thing. Exactly, it was just go back to work. We were our own therapists, and that's a bad bubble to be in. It's full of bravado, and and nobody's going to show a crack. So you keep these things in. Well, all these events happened. It actually forced me to change my course of what I thought was going to be my career. I could have went back to Boston and been a Boston cop easy, or a Mass State Trooper. No, I don't want to live like that. So I went federal, where it's a little lighter, different type of action. So I floated out in the ether. I got out in 97, and I floated around in the ether for about 20 years. And the VA was like, at the time, it's like, I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to deal with anything. Well, eventually, one of my friends, we had this reunion that a bunch of us from the Philippines, because that's where we were a band of brothers. At that point, when we were there, it was the most dangerous base to be in the whole Department of Defense. They just assassinated 3 Americans off base, American airmen. There was a constant terrorist threat. And terrorism back in 87, 88, 89 wasn't really thought of like it is today. It was a newspaper article, and that's that, really.
But a lot of folks don't realize how Southeast Asia is so
It's pretty intense.
Intense with terrorism. A lot of folks
Yeah.
are very ignorant to
It's
it.
pretty
They
intense.
Yeah, they don't realize.
So
I think it's the highest Muslim population is Southeast Asia.
there's one island in the Philippines that's predominantly Muslim, but these were just local terrorists. They were called the New People's Army. They were just local terrorists. They didn't like the government. They didn't like the base being there. So a bunch of us get together every year, and I don't know, going back about 3-4 years ago, finally we get older, and I always say, like, even the hardest piece of granite cracks on the inside. You might not see it, but as we got older, we got more comfortable with showing vulnerability and weakness. And so I was telling the stories that we always told, and one of my buddies literally looked at me and said, "Dude, you got more issues than Sports Illustrated. You got to go talk to somebody."
Yeah.
So I did, and I went to the VA. I checked a lot of boxes, and long story short, I get sent over to the Herd Foundation in Delray Beach, Florida. It's equine assisted services, and it changed my life. Working with these horses, it's all groundwork, changed my life. Herd Foundation changed my life to the point where I started to feel a lot lighter. It just really worked on my head, and there's a lot that goes into that. But equine assisted services is an amazing therapeutic thing to go through. Well, I liked it so much I never left. I ended up helping with the veterans that were coming in, and then they had me do outreach for them, and then I became the veteran ambassador, and now I'm on their board of directors. But in that outreach is where the story gets interesting. So I do this outreach with Mission United had it a couple years ago, because I've been with her for about 2 years. It's up at Palm Beach State College, and I go in this room, and it's a 2-day event. The first day is all the nonprofits introduce each other, and we tell a little bit about what we do. And then the next day, it's the tabling, and the veterans come in. But the first day I went in there, I saw all these people, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? These are all nonprofits for veterans. For veterans. There's got to be 60 tables in here. And I never knew about it. I had no idea that these nonprofits
Most
were
of us
there
don't.
that I could have used in that 20 years of just floating around with, whatever was going on in my head, whatever short fuse I had, and they cover everything. The beauty of these nonprofits is there's a lot of outside the box stuff, which gives the veterans more things to do, more options.
More options.
So I become friends with the executive director of Mission United, Jonathan Oakley, and Cecilia Baez. She's with the VA. She has a long name, but she basically is the West Palm Beach VA's suicide prevention person, the coalition. She gets out into the community. And I see what they're doing, and they run the same lanes. They're trying to get all these nonprofits together, because we're like islands amongst ourselves.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a directory with all of them listed?
So there is, and a bunch of people have them, but a lot of people don't. They don't know about the others listed.
They're all disconnected.
Yeah, and I see how it happens. You're running a nonprofit, which I'll get to what I'm doing, and you really focus on that in helping your people. The outside layer is the other nonprofits. We come across each other. We're friends with a lot. We refer to other nonprofits. If they don't like equine, then we refer them. But there's really no like coalition, you know.
Exactly, and that's the requirement as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a there's a nonprofit, like you said, that does equine. There's a nonprofit that does scuba diving.
Sure.
But there's not a nonprofit that's for nonprofits that do everything.
Which is
Except Veterans Resource Network, 501c3.
Right.
That's partial. That's the other half, because it's not only veteran businesses, it's veteran nonprofits. I have veteran nonprofits there, and I promote them.
Right.
Of course, those are our brothers. We're cousins. I want if equine. And I also did equine therapy up north in was it not Lake Dora, Cloud?
Ocala?
St. Cloud.
St.
Cloud. Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's
and I did
amazing.
it in a very dark time in my life, and that's why I'm an advocate of all of these things. I believe everything out there is great for veterans. All these
Right.
big nonprofits. I think some are bigger, some are bullets, and some are sabo rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I
I'm
think
in the
they're
Air
all
Force.
good.
I'm not too the artillery stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
really versed with. I was in the Air Force. Let's not get carried away.
Well,
I was
bullets.
in the Air Force.
Big bullets. Some are bigger bullets.
Big bullets.
Some are smaller
Oh, you shoot
bullets.
the big bullets.
The big,
oh,
giant
okay,
ones.
yeah.
But I think all of them have a place.
Yeah.
And I think we're all disconnected. We have so many great veterans. But they're in their lane. I'm like, I just want to bring them all together so that we can find them, because we can't find each other. And when we do find each other, look at this. You're doing a podcast. I'm doing, we're competing. No, we're not.
No.
I'm promoting what you're doing,
No.
because what you're doing is a little different than what I'm doing. Very different than what I'm doing.
Collaboration over
and
competition.
collaboration, 100%. Because at the end, our goals, what I like to say in the military is the commander intent is the same.
Right.
What's the commander say? We're trying to help veterans. We're
Yeah.
trying to help our community, empower our, and not just help them. I don't think it's enough to just help them, because I think when we force feed this depression deal too much, then we become victimized. Now we're like, we're victims. I don't want us to be victims. I want us to be empowered. I want us to build businesses. I want us to be successful. And then I want the successful businesses to help out the smaller businesses.
Right.
But it's our community. We don't got to go around begging for money. But anyways,
Right.
yeah.
So, and I agree with you 100% on all of that. So I would talk to Jonathan, I talked to Cecilia, they'd talk to each other. And I was a podcaster. I started podcasting like 4 years ago. I have a cheap plug, Milk Crates and Turntables. It's a music podcast. It's all about music.
Okay.
Why
Milk crates? Why milk crates?
Well, when we were growing up, we keep our albums in in milk crates,
love
right?
it.
So it's kind of a boomer thing.
Gotcha,
right? It's
gotcha,
kind of a
gotcha.
boomer thing. So I know I'm on episode like 158 that I'm doing tonight, as a matter of fact. They're always live, but you can find it on Spotify, Milk Crates and Turntables, or any platform. They're long form, right? So I really honed my craft of podcasting. And so I'm talking to Jonathan and Cecilia one day, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast about nonprofits and promote the nonprofits. Like, lift them up and put them out there and see what happens. And that's what I do. My podcast, the Vets Connection podcast, is I interview nonprofits that work with veterans so I can lift them up. It's like a 30-minute infomercial. This is all about you, man. And I want you to sell it. I want you, my face isn't on it. I put it on YouTube. My face isn't on it because it's about the nonprofits. My other podcast is the other thing. That's the other thing. That's all me. That's all my ego. It's all my knowledge, right? But this is a specific demographic that we're looking at. So I created the Vets Connection podcast, and I started interviewing all these nonprofits, and it's going great. Then I said, you know what? I got to do more. Like, I want to do more. And what I noticed was that a lot of these nonprofits are very dynamic nonprofits. You got gyms, and you got horses, and you have dogs, and you have yoga, and you have, there's a lot to choose from. There's canoeing, there's hiking, there's jujitsu. But I'm like, I started thinking, I said, but this is my opinion, and I don't judge anybody. I love all these nonprofits. I really, really love all these nonprofits. I love what they do. Just the fact that they're doing something means everything.
100%.
Means everything. And I said, you know what am I good at? I'm good at podcasting, and I'm pretty good at storytelling. So what I learned in my outreach is I've probably been asked to talk in front of groups a dozen times in the last 2 years. Now, you know as well as I do, veterans have stories, but no one ever really says, hey, André, tell me your story. Like, tell me your story. You don't really get asked that specific question. it's in a roundabout way, and you're like, oh, this is how but tell us your story. Like, I'm really interested in what your story is. That's when you go and speak to the Kiwanis Club, or you speak in front of the Delray Chamber of Commerce, or you speak to whoever. To a veteran, that's everything. Like, people are listening to you. A veteran with PTSD is even better. So what happens, what I learned with the whole storytelling aspect, this is why I really incorporated into the One Man, One Mic Foundation. That's my new foundation. And it's basically fostering purpose, belonging, and connection in veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injury through storytelling and podcasting. Because that's what it does. It creates all that. So storytelling is one of the pillars of post-traumatic healing. What storytelling does is when PTSD takes over, when you get in the throes of PTSD, the fight or flight takes over. And I look at it like this. It's like someone with multiple personality disorder. There's always one dominant personality. And in the bottom, there's that weak one, there's that soft one that comes out every once in a while. But the dominant one says, we don't need you. You stay down. That's what PTSD does to the right side, the creative part of the brain. It really doesn't need it. It's what buries it. And you don't know it. You're living your life, and it just becomes the norm for you. That PTSD brain doesn't really ever go away. It's a weight. It's like alcoholism. I'm a recovering alcoholic, 32 years. That's never going away. PTSD is never going away. There's no cure. But what research has found is storytelling literally remaps the brain. It rewires the brain. When they start getting comfortable with telling this story, it's like a flower. It's starting to grow up through the dirt, and it finds its way to the surface. And that's that relief. That's that release. That's that little bit of weight lifted. And the way I look at it, every time a veteran tells their story, a little weight is lifted from them. So I say, would you rather carry 500 pounds or 50 pounds? You're going to carry a weight, but if storytelling is the thing that can lift that up from you and give you purpose, and podcasting gives you belonging, because you get that one subscriber. You're like, oh shit, somebody's listening to me. And you get 3 subscribers, 10 downloads. Like, I don't have to be Joe Rogan.
Don't.
Or Tim Pool.
If I reach 107 people, which I have 107 subscribers, and 107 people get to hear what you said today,
it's beautiful.
And some of those guys have PTSD, then I did my job, job. You know what I mean? Like, I'm ready, and that's so critical to just keep pressing.
Yeah.
But to what you're saying, 100%. I can see how that's healing, because my last guest was actually my cousin Rob, and he experienced 9/11. He was talking about 9/11. He was an EMT. He was on ground zero. He was talking about how he was in a warehouse where all the first responders was their staging area.
Yeah.
So he got there, and they're waiting for them. And they're waiting for them, and hours passed, like, where are these guys? It didn't hit them for years, even said, that they were pulverized, that they were breathing. He said in the podcast, I had to watch the podcast because I'm editing. He goes, we're breathing them in because they were pulverized. Yeah. And it was such an eerie sight that the gear was there and they were never coming back. 343. So the point to what you're saying is, he said it took him 7 years to even talk about it. But while he's talking about it, you can see what you're saying. Like, I'm seeing it in real time, the mapping. He's more comfortable. It's the past.
It stimulates the brain.
Yes, I can see it while he was discussing it, and I can see how that heals 100%.
Yeah, and so I said, you know what? I love what everyone else is doing, but really no one is doing this. I've seen all these nonprofits. No one is really going after the storytelling. People sleep on it, actually. They sleep on storytelling because we're kind of conditioned to be like, oh, storytelling. Oh, yeah, I like it good.
It's not
but you
sexy.
never look at it.
It's not
as
as sexy
healing
as the thing.
Exactly, as having a beautiful gem, or
a multi-million-dollar facility,
or this great dog that will, which is all great. I don't want anybody to think that I'm knocking anything. I love all of it. I've seen them all. I've talked to all these people. I love these people. They're my compadres in this. We're all in it together. But nobody's actually addressing the storytelling and going right to the source. right to the source. In the podcasting aspect, I teach them from basically creation to publishing, from concept to publishing. I do an 8-week course in my nonprofit called the Pod Lab.
And where do you hold this?
Actually, I'm doing it virtual right now. I have a guy in Utah.
Would it be good to have a facility to do this?
I have that coming.
Could you
Somebody
have that
actually donated me an office to turn into a studio.
Fantastic.
Donated it to me because they believe in this.
But I believe in what you're saying too,
Yeah.
because I've always envisioned for the Warfighter Sanctuary to have a podcast area.
Yes.
However, until we had this conversation, and we've spoken for the last week, until I've gotten this deep into how effective in
Yes.
helping our community this is, now I'm even more of an advocate. All you've done is like you put me on steroids.
Podcasting gives the veteran, like I said, purpose, belonging, and connection. Those are very vital in
recovery,
in
yeah.
post-traumatic healing. It's a platform for your voice to be heard. Like if I walk around and I talk to myself, okay, I hear myself. I'm not going to intrude on people and say, hey, let me tell you my story. Hey, I got this story. People have to say, hey, so how did that happen? It has to be introduced, right? Well, you get in front of the microphone, and you can just sit here and you can just talk. Say whatever you want, and then you publish it, and it goes out. So transcendency is one of the pillars of post-traumatic healing. Transcendence is something that's bigger than us. The podcast universe is bigger than us. It's out there. Anything you send, you hit send or you hit publish, it goes out into that universe, and it's always going to be there. It's there for your grandchildren to hear. It's here for 10 years from now. Some veteran might catch your episode.
That's
and
another
go,
reason to do it.
holy smokes. Like, yeah, that guy's right. So the podcasting is the platform. It's a skill set too. So I'm teaching the veterans a skill set. They can actually make money doing it. Now again, the chances you become Joe Rogan or Tim Pool or any of those guys, probably not, but you can get sponsors. You hone your craft like you're doing, like I'm doing. You'll get sponsors that will pay to put spots in your podcast. So they're learning a skill set. It might be a hobby, a side job, but it's still a skill set. As you know, this isn't just people sitting behind a microphone and talking. There's work that goes into this. You got a lot of work going on here, you know. But we make it look easy, like a dog handler.
We do make it
in the
look really
military.
easy.
I'm a bomb dog handler, and I'm out there and I'm searching, and you can look and go, I can do that. Well, you really can't.
He's just walking around with the dog.
Exactly.
Well, it's like
He's just walking a dog.
Or realtors, they just open doors.
Exactly. Yeah. So the One Man, One Mic Foundation grew from the podcast, the Vets Connection podcast, which grew from my involvement in Herd Foundation. Now, Herd Foundation is always going to be a part of my life. They can't get rid of me. They are the ones that changed my life. Equine Assistance Services was an amazing experience. It really opened me up. It's experiential, so it's really hard to explain. Everybody's experience is different, as you know. My experience and your experience were different working with the horses, but you always get that connection. It's all about connection with horses. So connection with veterans, connection with nonprofits working with veterans, across the country. It's all about connection. And so, this is kind of spawned into all this in the last 2 years. And with all this, like somebody said to me from the VA, she's the executive director of the public affairs, and she's big into the storytelling. And she wanted to hear my story, and I told her, and we started talking about this, and she said this to me, and it was kind of like, it was like an epiphany. Like I didn't even realize. She said, "You found your purpose." I was like, "Yeah, I guess I did. I found my purpose at 60, and it's never too late. It's never too late. So this is where I'm at now, and this whole journey has been amazing. It's really been amazing, and I have an amazing wife who encourages it.
Good.
And doesn't
That's
mind
so
that I'm
important.
doing this, and this, and she supports it. She's a nurse practitioner, a PhD in nursing, and she's also an associate professor. So she does multiple things too, and she actually wrote the syllabus for my pod lab. So it's a top-notch syllabus.
Legit, yeah.
Yes, it's legit. It's legit. And eventually want to get it accredited, which is a big jump for that. So things that happen, and I've been blessed, absolutely been blessed. I've been through some tragedy. I lost my first wife to breast cancer, and I watched it go. I lost my mother early, my brother early, my friends. So that all happened in a group of cancer. Drank himself to death. That's where I grew up.
Yeah. I know. Same scenario.
And all this happened in like a group of years. And I live by two mottos. Out of everything bad comes something good. It's inevitable. Something good is going to come out of the bad that you live through, you experience. And the PTSD, the things I saw. This is what blossomed out of it. You know, I guess I suffered. You don't know you're suffering when you're in the throes of it, right? You don't even realize. Someone says, you got problems, dude. You know? But this is the good that finally came out of it. And everything happens for a reason. There's a reason I didn't find those nonprofits for the 20 years I floated around out there looking for help that I didn't know I needed. You know? I think the universe eventually shows you why. The universe eventually shows you why.
It's showing me right now.
And it showed me why I didn't find those nonprofits, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, André, I think at this point in my life, and I have kids that are grown, I have grandkids, beautiful family. It's got its problems like everybody else, but I don't think I've ever been happier in my life than I am today.
Right now.
Because of what I'm doing, and giving back is just such, again, I'm preaching to the choir. Giving back is such an amazing experience when you really pay attention to it. When you really like take a step back and go, it feels good to help these people. And it's selfless. It's selfless and it's purposeful, right? And it's very gratifying when someone's like, dude, that was great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's because we see ourselves in everybody too. Even though it's not for self, but we see the suffering. Like I recognize, like I go, man, I was there. Or your situation is different because none of us have the same situation.
Right.
But it's like I recognize, and just like you said, like going through, like I suffered, man. This is not my show today, but when you interview me, well,
sure,
I'll tell you my story. But I suffered, and when I look back, I go, man, I wish for years when I suffered, I was like, man, I wish that never happened. If I only made a left turn, if I made a right turn, if I did this, I did that. And then 10 years almost to the day, June of 2014 is when my life went upside down. You know, I go, I needed to be here.
Yep.
I wouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
And it's gonna get somewhere. You know, I see the effects happening and I see what I'm doing. And, you know, I always say, you can't, good and evil, both imply other people. You can't be good alone. If I was the only human being on the earth, how could I be good? By feeding myself, by washing myself, it implies someone else.
Right.
So,
exactly.
You know what I mean? And that is the magic right there. Yeah.
So I had started doing this and I posted on Facebook, and I have a pretty good following on Facebook. And this is an interesting story. It was nerve-wracking at the time. So I was stationed in Sacramento in 90, 91, 92. And this kid was stationed there. And he was just a kid then. He was like 19, 20, married, good kid. Just one of those good kids. I was that guy. I was still drinking then. Well, that's when I had to stop drinking. But I was always happy.
You sound more like a Marine than Air Force.
Yeah. So he was a good kid. And I remember, well, I don't know. So everything happens for a reason. Like 7 months ago, we reconnect on Facebook, which, you know, Facebook is a blessing, but it's a curse also. Yeah. We all know that. Mm-hmm. So we reconnect, and he's like, hey, I love what you're doing with the veterans. And he's a veteran, and he had an unfortunate situation based on an injury that he had in the military. And it was kind of traumatic for him. And And we never really talked about it, but we connect. He's like, hey, I love what you're doing. And so I post these things like Firewatch. I did the Firewatch training, which is suicide prevention.
Yes.
For veterans.
Henry,
Awesome. Angulo, yeah.
Yep.
Great guy.
Great guy.
Henry's a great guy.
He's in the trenches. I love those guys that are out there in the trenches.
He's in the trenches.
Because there's people that talk a lot, and there's people that are out there. He's one of them.
His car will tell you. His mileage on his car will tell you he's in the trenches.
Yep.
So I post this, and this kid says, "Hey, how do I do this?" So I said it might be an online course. We connected now a couple times, and then it's like probably now going on a month ago. It's like a random, like today, a Wednesday night at like 10:30, and I'm sitting in my kitchen at my island. This is my thing, and my wife's watching TV, and my phone rings, and it's through Facebook. I don't know if you ever got one of those calls.
I guess
it's kind of a weird.
It's weird. You're like, is this a real phone call?
And there's no stopping at 4 rings. It keeps going.
It just keeps going. Yeah.
And I look down and I'm like, it's this guy, and I'm like, oh, he's probably. And I've had these calls like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like an hour behind or something, and they reach out, and I always answer, but this time I'm like, it's like 10:30, and I'm like, yeah.
We all feel that way too. Yeah.
But it kept ringing. I said, all right, let me answer this. What the hell? And I answer it, and I said, what's up, buddy? It's just silent. Then I hear it sounds like he's crying.
Oh, man.
And he says, I put the gun to my head and pulled the trigger, and it was empty.
Wow.
Talk about a what the fuck moment.
Yeah.
My head, everything in the room went, ooh. Oh, spinning, racing. All right, buddy. All right, let's talk about this. You're okay, that it was. And so I start. He's in Indiana, so I can't reach him. And we talked, and we just talked, and he was upset, and he said the typical what they always say. I'm sorry I bothered you. I didn't mean to bother you. Oh no. Now I just had this.
That would have bothered me if I got the call later. That would have bothered me.
Yeah, I had just had the Firewatch training.
Yeah.
Like a couple weeks earlier.
I need that training. Henry's offered it to me too. I got to do that training.
Well, I can tell you this, in reality, when somebody hits you with that call at a weird time, you're never prepared for it. And I talked to Henry the next day. He was the first person I called.
Yeah.
And I said, this is what happened. I went blank.
Yeah.
I went total. And then you just natural, like, okay, the law enforcement side of me kind of kicked in, and I started talking to him. It was so strange. It was so surreal that they were talking about calling 211, and I was agreeing. I'm like, no. 988 is what you want to call. 988 is the veteran suicide hotline, and then press 1. And so I'm thinking this. I said, call 988. And then I said to myself, is that the right number? This is how this hits you.
It's almost like being
and
in
I'm
combat.
not lying.
Like
I could be this guy.
The
exactly.
brain dump. You gotta get a brain dump because you're in the mix of it.
I could be this guy and say, "Oh, I handled this like a pro." No. I was lost. Like this is whoa. But I said 988, and I went to my wallet and I pulled out. Okay, it's 988.
Yeah.
Like to that point, but we got through it, and he got through it, and he said this: "You're the only one I thought to call." Because of the stuff that I'm doing, and I'm showing all my friends, people on Facebook, hey, if you know a veteran, he was the veteran.
And I got to tell you, that is probably like the best thing about starting all this, because, because I do get calls.
Yeah.
Unexpected, and the way I get
They're
called,
never expected.
the way I get the calls, it's never like, I never get a call that says, hey, is this the Veterans Resource Network? I found you online and I'm looking to post my business and I want to be on your podcast. I never get that call.
No.
I get those kind of calls. And and I'm like the last straw, because they've gone through the whole directory. They've already reached people, and people that have nonprofits here already, not that, I guess, they've already reached them to their limit already.
Yeah.
So they come to me. And then I'm like, I'm not trained in anything.
God
but I'm
bless you
trained
for
in
that.
but
You're
I'm
there for a
trained in
reason, yeah.
but I'm trained for I've been through some shit, man.
Yeah.
And I've had the gun to my head and I've tried to hang myself and I've been in that situation where I just
Yeah.
thought that it was just not worth it anymore. So I know what to tell them. At least I think, because
Well,
every time I've gotten a call,
It's all different.
well, exactly, but
Yeah.
it's worked out well, you know,
Yeah.
and we've stayed in touch, and sometimes, like another point I want to make about what your friend is, you know, sometimes we're so close, you know, you're so close to it that you don't see it.
Yeah.
Like I just had an epiphany yesterday that one of my friends, he never vocalized, you know, almost 99% of my friends are veterans. You know, he's a close friend of mine. He didn't vocalize that he's suicidal, but I'm over here talking to people in his life, and it starts coming together. I'm like, André, are you stupid, man? This guy's drinking all the time. He's going through divorce. He always wants to go out. He's always. I'm not catching it.
You don't want to see it.
I'm not seeing it
Yeah.
because it's so close to
Yeah.
me. And in the meantime, I'm telling him, oh yeah, I got this meeting because of anti-suicide. Oh, I'm going to this thing. I'm going to this. And I'm like, dude, I got to talk to this guy.
It's hiding in plain sight. as
Hiding
they
in
say.
plain sight.
Yeah.
He's right there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I just had that epiphany yesterday. But yeah, I get those calls, and it's I didn't expect that.
No.
Because I don't brand or promote ourselves as a anti-suicide or
Right.
mitigate suicide. But that's always
they
the underlining
see you
theme.
as a resource.
But it's always the
Yes.
underlining theme because it's success. Because I didn't want to be where I'm saying, hey, we're a crisis center. Because veterans will not go to that. They won't. A lot of
Yeah.
us won't.
No.
A lot of, but if we're saying, hey, this is where veterans come together for success,
Yeah.
we'll get like 80% will be the successful ones that want to do something, but then there's the 20% that are like, they're lost, and they're like, well, I see you guys doing something, and those are the guys that I want to get. But that's always the underlining thing.
Yeah.
You know, always the underlining thing.
Yeah. Then another guy, and I don't mean to tell these stories, but
Tell these stories.
This is
Tell these
based
stories.
on because of what I've learned in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time in my life I really didn't want to have anything to do with being like the veteran space or anything like that. It's like I lived it.
Yeah.
Like I worked dogs for 32 years of my life, more than half my life, even to this day. And when I was done, I was done. I was like Joe Montana. I hung up the jersey and I walked away.
Yeah.
I never came back to the studio.
Yeah. Do you have a dog at home?
No.
Wow.
No, my last customs dog, when I retired, I took her with me. She passed away.
That was
and
it.
I was like, I'm kind of, I need a break. It was
Yeah.
a long time with dogs. I had 2 cats.
You joined the dark side.
Well,
I love cats too.
Yeah, they're
But-
a different. It's a different kind of.
But fun
cat.
fact, what I learned about cats is
Yeah.
that if you die, you're a cop.
They'll eat your face.
They'll eat your freaking face.
And good for
Dogs
them, I
won't-
say.
And dogs won't do
Yeah,
that.
good
Dogs
for
will
them.
starve.
They're not going to stop you. A little smarter than the dog. I get you. Yeah, they will.
Hey, it's a good, different perspective. I was like, I don't know, I don't trust cats.
Right.
I used to trust them until I found out.
As
that
long
they
as they're doing them alive, that's all I care. I
won't
don't want
do it
to
while
wake
you're
up
alive.
at night feeling a cat eating
They
my
might think,
face.
maybe they think about it sometimes because they come up to your face and lick you and then they go,
I'm
nah.
sure. I'm sure. No. So I was on Facebook one night, and this was recently, and dude posts the clip to a 9mm, one bullet in the top. He posted this on Facebook, and it says, "One left. What should I do with it?"
Jesus.
And I look at the comments, and this was like 30 minutes had passed since when I got it. Comments are like, time to get more ammo. Like, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So I'm like, oh. And so this is at night again, and I send him a Facebook message, and I'm like, what am I, an idiot? Like, call him.
Yeah.
So I called him, and there was no answer. I'm like, fuck me. Right? So that's the best you can do is call. Like 3 minutes after I called, it rings back. And the first thought was, I hope this isn't his wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, I
with
get
nobody to call, she saw that I called. It's him. So I talked to him. And I talked to him. And we grew up in the same town. And he knew my brother that passed away. We're just talking about that. But when he answered the phone, he started with, she's not supposed to be like this. My wife isn't supposed to be like this. She's not supposed to be like this. I was like, oh, he's in the middle of something. Like he's really, something got him. We talked and we talked. And at the end of the conversation, what he said was, you have no idea how much this phone call meant to me. Right?
How could you not pick up the phone? Again,
Well,
after a situation like that.
Again, so this is part of my training, part of being a compassionate human being. that, you know, what we do, we're compassionate people to do this, like extra, I say, you know, because we are sacrificing a lot of our life and our time to do this. So that's compassion for other veterans.
But I think compassion comes from suffering too, though.
And it comes from
hard,
suffering.
It's hard to be a compassionate person unless
If
you
you
suffered.
haven't suffered,
If you
yeah.
haven't suffered, how can you be that compassionate?
Yeah, you don't know what winning is like until you lose.
Exactly.
You know. So that happened, and I call Henry the next day.
Yeah.
I'm like, Henry, this is what happened, because I like to check in with him. He's the expert, right? And I handled it a little better this time. But it's out there, and if you're not paying attention, you know, don't be afraid to call these people, but certainly don't comment, hey, it's time to get more bullets. Or, and he said, nobody called me. If that wasn't when he said that, he was crying for help.
Of course.
So it's just funny how these things happen, and it's all because of what I'm doing, and it's all because one friend said I had more issues than Sports Illustrated, and that started this whole journey, and I am far from done in the veteran space. I think I have more to offer. So
100%.
board of directors of the Herd, the podcast, the foundation as itself is a lot of work, but there's more.
But it fuels you. You know,
It does. It
like that's how I feel,
absolutely
because
does.
I'll tell you, Scott, like there's weeks where I'm like, I was up till 3 a.m. doing editing, and I'm doing this, and I'm trying to do all these different things. I'm like, if I don't do it, who's gonna do it? I gotta do it. And then I'm like, man, but then I meet someone like you, and I meet Terry Coleman, who I met yesterday, and I meet all these great people that are in my life, and I go, man, I got a blessed life. How can I just like say, nah, I'm done? Like, there's no way. And it does feel good. And again, and I feel like, because I feel like you said, compassion is linked to suffering, but when you're giving that compassion, you feel a little alleviated on your suffering.
It helps me.
You know, I don't believe in karma, because I don't believe in karma, because there's evil ass people that they have a great life. But I believe but I do believe that it relieves you. It takes away some of your pain when you know that you've taken away someone else's pain. You know, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I said earlier, out of everything back to something good.
Yeah.
Now me and this guy, we're buddies. We talk like once a week, or we'll text.
Nice.
And he's like, you know, he falls back on me sometimes, and I'll call him out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I said this. I said, now that we have this connection, you know, and we had that conversation, I said, now we're friends again. Yeah. You're not getting rid of me. Yeah. Like, there's no reason for me to walk away.
Yeah.
You know, so now we just rekindle the friendship after 30 something years.
Wow.
And again, we were friends back then. We didn't hang out, but we worked together.
Yeah.
We had that police thing. And and we remembered each other. And so now it's a friendship kind of blossomed out of that. A late in life kind of friendship, you know? And that's the beautiful thing that came out of that. You know, and now he knows he has somebody to kind of fall back on.
And you know, that's an important thing, because I think a lot of people assume, because we were either law enforcement or veterans, that we have these huge communities. And you know what I mean? But that is a big misconception. Yeah. People think, oh, you're a veteran, so you got like 30 friends. Oh, you're a Marine, so you got like 50 guys you serve with.
Depends on the veteran.
It depends on the veteran. Now, I happen to, you do, because we're these social people.
Yes.
And we're not afraid to go out there, because you were a police officer, I was a private investigator, so we're already out there. So we got that. But I don't think most veterans have that. I think most veterans will portray like they do, but deep down they got maybe one person they can call when it comes down to it. Yeah. And that's another part of what we're doing. What I'm doing here with this network is like, I want everyone to have what I have. Yeah. I have a bunch of friends I can call. I have resources I can call. I have all this stuff, but I feel like guilty for just me having it. So like, how can I do it so that anyone that's a veteran can have access, and first responders, because I want to include them, because we have the same trauma. I don't like to say disorder. I know. I don't like to say disorder, and I'll tell you why. I like to say post-trauma, because I feel disorder has that negative connotation to it, and also it's like, wait a minute. Until a couple of 100 years ago, man survived by enslaving and killing all the people in local tribes. Just the way human nature was. Yeah. And you're going to tell me that, so everyone has a disorder from the beginning of time to the last 100 years? I go, no, I don't think it's a disorder. I think it's part of nature. It's just like when animals in the wild kill each other. It looks horrible, but it's just part of, and I wouldn't say they have a disorder. I say that, we just have to learn how to cope with it,
Coping isn't always easy. You know,
It's
we're
not
all
easy.
wired differently.
We're all
and-
wired differently.
And I agree with you, but we're all wired differently, and some cope better than others. And I think that's what makes this hard to pin down. This question about how do we stop the 22 a day? How do we do that? Everybody asks the same question.
I feel like I have the answer.
And that's a beautiful thing.
I really
That's a
do.
beautiful thing.
Really do.
And that's
All my heart and
your
soul.
purpose, buddy.
And my heart and soul.
That's your purpose.
Because
yes.
it's not a solution. There's no silver bullet, Scott.
There isn't.
There's no silver
There
bullet.
isn't.
But there's two common themes with veteran suicide. You mentioned it earlier, and you kind of mentioned it again too. You mentioned it without mentioning it directly. Purpose and tribe. Tribe. It can't just be purpose.
Right.
We need each other.
That
When
connection.
that
Yeah.
connection, because you mentioned it.
Yeah.
When we served with law enforcement or a veteran, you always had someone to go to, whether you had marital problems or rank issues or questions, it's just whatever. Because it was a dude that went through what you've already been through. And he's someone that you can talk to and be like, hey man, you went through a divorce as a law enforcement. Or you went through, how did you get rank? How did you get to gunny? We don't have that. When we get out of the military or the law enforcement, or first responders, you get cut off. And it's like, now you have no mentor. Now you have no guidance. Now you have no one to go to. That cuts it off. So I feel like the real solution is, one, how do you find your purpose? Well, you got to find like-minded people, other veterans. Yeah, but he's doing this. Well, you have all these different things that they're doing. There's a directory with, right now we have over 70 veteran businesses. Those are 70 veterans you can reach out to if you just got off of active duty and you're interested in being an electrician, well, call Justin. You're interested in being a realtor? Well, then call me. You're interested in being an inspector? Well, then call Ivan. And they're great, dude. Each one of them is like you. Is like these are fantastic veterans in our community. Wade Waddick, all these guys are great. So now you have someone you can reach out to and ask them about that industry. Or maybe you don't have a question about that industry, but you saw him on the podcast. You saw him on Scott's podcast or Andre's podcast, and he seems relatable. He seems like you can reach out to him. And you found out that he was with two warlords with the Marine Corps also. Now you feel more compelled to reach out to him.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, are you feeling that solution?
Oh no, absolutely.
It's having all these different
finding
things,
the connections,
putting them all together under one roof where we have these different clubs. And I always picture it like, okay, if we had one in Boston, it might look a little different than the one in South Florida.
Absolutely. The concept is the same though.
The concept is the same, but here we might have a surf team. Over there we might have something different, you know? And that's what I'm saying. So it's gotta be, it can't be cookie cutter.
Right.
It's gotta be organic, but the themes are purpose and tribe. Right. And we're meeting with purpose. We're not just meeting to get drunk at like the American Legion or get drunk at the VFW. That wasn't done. That's okay. That was a backup. But we're meeting for purpose. We're meeting to have, Scott's gonna have his course on podcasting for veterans. Or he's gonna have we're not talking about podcasting this time, we're gonna talk about storytelling, the importance of storytelling, what you just talked about. All these things. He can't run anymore, he's disabled, but he rides a bike. So we're gonna have a bike group. And bike group meets on Sundays. So to me the solution isn't, it's a one solution. The solution is, let's just get everybody with purpose and tribe as the theme, and under one umbrella, we'll put all these things and we will find each other. Because there's tribes within the tribe.
You know what? When I was growing up, we had in my town, we had a youth center. And the youth center
YMCA, we had a YMCA back then,
It
in
had
Brooklyn.
pool tables over there, pinball machines over here. It had skeet ball over
clubhouse.
there. It had this, it had that. Yeah. And pretty much 3/4 of the kids in the city, in the town, were there on a Saturday, on a Sunday, just like that. They all came because they wanted to do something and they were coming to meet. So it's the same concept as that.
Exact concept.
It gets them all, it's something for them to do, and then it's like some just go just to hang out.
Exactly. And some will go and they have no interest in purpose. They're going there to play Xbox. They're going there to do jujitsu. They're going there to lift weights. But while they're doing that, they see some guys doing something really cool, and they're like, "Hey Scott, what are you doing over there? What was this thing you were talking about, podcasting, storytelling?" Because I got TB, I got hit with an ID in 2006. And then you start telling them that, and you just open their eyes. And just like that equine therapy, the equestrian therapy changed your life, someone there could change someone else's life by just talking about that. I didn't even know equestrian training was a thing.
I didn't either.
I didn't know that jiu-jitsu really made a difference. When I was in the most suicidal times of my life, everything was going wrong, a perfect storm. But like every day when I went to the jiu-jitsu, it was like a wipe. It was like my mind got wiped, because all I could think about was like getting choked out. I'm not good. You know what I mean?
That's
I'm a white
motivating.
belt. I'm getting destroyed. So I'm just thinking of that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my girl that's leaving me. Not thinking about all this
Right.
other hard stuff that's going on in my life. You know, thinking about what I've lost in
It's
my
like
life.
AA, right?
Yeah.
I'd go to AA when I used to go, and I'd go there for that 1 hour or that 90 minutes, and I'm there for me, and I'm here
Yeah.
because I'm not drinking. Now, AA is kind of selfish too because I'm going for myself. It's a support group, but I'm really there for me, so I'm not drinking. You know, now the rest is just the icing on the cake. You're there too, and if you have a question, then we can talk. But I go for me. I don't go for the group. The group becomes secondary. It becomes camaraderie.
But it becomes.
It becomes.
It trends-
Exactly.
Exactly.
But
That's the
ultimately,
magic.
I'm there
That's
for
the
me, but
that's
it
the
grows,
magic.
you know?
But that's why I said and the importance of not calling it a crisis center or not
Right.
calling it the veteran of this. It's a MWR, Morale, Wellness, and Recreation / Business Center.
Yeah.
With a podcast area, which
Sure.
I always mentioned, like I always wanted a podcast area, but after meeting you and after talking about all the things that you're talking about as far as how the importance of it, definitely have to have a podcast
It's a
area.
platform that every veteran can do. It's easy access. So about 6 years ago, I was interested in a little beyond. I was interested in podcasting. This is before it became what it is today. I had known about it. I'm like, that's something I think I'd be good with.
Yeah.
But then I went and I looked, and it was like, now maybe this was like 10 years ago. And I looked and like, the technology is I have to go to a studio. Like I have to find a college radio station. It really wasn't built for this.
Yeah.
What you and I are doing
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
What I do in my studio kitchen, as I call it. Until like about 4 years ago, my wife, she's my muse. She's
Yeah.
absolutely
Awesome.
my muse, my wife. She said, I was going to get you this for Christmas. And it's this little handheld recorder for podcasting. And I was like, what is this? She goes, but they sold out, right?
The little video sound deal.
No, it was like a handheld podcast. It had two microphones,
Nice.
and it could be you and me, and it's great sound. I think it's made by Zoom, and but they were sold out. She said, and I looked at it, and she just mentioned it, like I don't know, a month after Christmas. I said, let me look into this. And then I started going down this rabbit hole of podcast equipment that's available now. And I'm like,
It's not that expensive. I could do this.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah. And so I'm like, well, let me give it a shot. And like, what the hell? I'm retired now. And so that's how I started podcasting. And of course, I learned the hard way because I'm on microphone number 3. So the other 2 I don't use. So that's money out the window,
Yeah.
which is what I tell
That
new
happens.
podcasters. Buy good stuff right up front.
Yeah.
If you're really dead
But we
set,
don't
they're
know.
not doing it.
But that's the other thing. Like, there's so much. This was a learning
There
process,
is.
and so much money was dumped.
Yeah.
And I go, another reason to have a sanctuary, so I
Yeah.
can go to this place and be like, can
And
you just
use
tell me
their
what to
thing.
get? Exactly. That's the other part. Like, I want the software.
Yeah.
We need all this editing software. We'll find out which one you like. We can get sponsors, so they can come and they can get on our
Exactly.
laptops and find out which software works for them, and then that. And they don't
And
have
it's a
to.
platform for it.
Yes.
It's a platform to be heard. And they don't have to be high-tech podcasters.
No, not at
These
all.
mics are you can get a USB mic that you plug into your laptop.
Yeah.
Headphones plug into the back of it. A couple settings, and boom, you get into your restream and you upload it, or you record it on GarageBand, or whatever you record on, and then just do it. It's a little bit of homework, but in the end, you just do your part, and then you like it, you just keep doing it. Next thing you know, you're talking to people and you're interviewing people, or you're telling stories. But it's your voice.
Yeah.
It's the veteran at their will. It's not like, I gotta go do this at 10 o'clock. You can do it at 7 in the morning. Do it at 3 in the morning if you can't sleep. That's the beauty of podcasting. Once you know how to do it, you can do it anytime. And your voice goes out to the podcast universe, and somebody will hear it. It's guaranteed somebody will hear it. And I always say a successful podcast is just that one episode. It could be one download that somebody heard and it changed their life.
Exactly.
I don't need 1 million. I'd love to have 1 million downloads. I'd love to have 50,000 an episode. Who wouldn't? But I look at it like this: it's that one person that hears
Absolutely.
it, and that's a successful podcast.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And
So
and especially with this podcast too, because I do it with a purpose. Like these episodes,
I've watched those a couple times.
they're going to
Yeah.
be linked. So when you join our network, which is free, of course, you're going to be there. they're going to find you, because I want a section for nonprofits. Right? And people, because we got all these nonprofits, like you were saying, we got all these nonprofits, so you can put a keyword search. Well, I'm interested in podcasting. Boom, you're going to be probably the only one that comes up there, right? Because no one offering that right now.
Yeah.
And dogs, well, then there'll be like 5.
Yeah.
You know, someone mentions dogs, boom, there's going to be like 6.
Service
And then when they click that listing for you, there's going to be a little link there for YouTube. They click that, and it's going to be this podcast. And they go, I relate to that guy. I got to talk to that guy.
That's
for 2
great.
reasons. One, they're going to reach out to you because maybe you resonated with them and you that story that you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Or 2, they are interested in podcasting. But either way, you're putting yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And we're empowering our network. We're force multiplying because you're doing a podcast, I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're getting it out there to the
collaboration
podcast
over
universe.
competition.
Yeah.
I don't, hey,
especially
listen.
when it's veterans, and especially when we have the same exact commander's intent, which is to help and save other veterans and empower them. I don't want to just say save like we're all going to die because suicide. Because I also want to move away from that. Because I want the people that are in despair to go, guys. It's more than just not committing suicide. It's you deserve to thrive in life.
Yeah.
You deserve to flourish. You paid your dues, and you got a group of, you got a tribe of brothers, whether you know them or not, that love you and want you to succeed, and we're here for you. They don't know that. How are they going to know that? That's when I really decided to do the podcast. I go, I got a great story, I got a great message, but no one's hearing it. I got to start this podcast. Yeah. And I go, I'm 16 episodes in. Okay, well, I'm 100 something from you, but hey, I started.
On the other one, yeah.
But I started.
I'm 22 on Vets Connection podcast, yeah. And I just want to say, if you want to hear the podcast, it's on all the platforms.
Excellent. After this, you're going to show me, because I'm only on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I got to go. I have some on Spotify, but I got to get consistent with all of them and figure out.
It's the platform I use to distribute I use Buzzsprout to distribute the podcast.
I don't even know what that is, but you're going to hook me up, brother.
Because I'm the podcast guy,
You're
buddy.
going to hook me up,
So if you want to go to the website, on the website there are resources. Everybody I interview,
Excellent.
I have a resources thing, and it's a link to their website, and that's my resource page. And feel free to contact those people and put them on your
100%.
podcast.
That was my next question.
Say, hey, I talked to Scott, and and I think everybody on there would be great interviews.
Everybody.
I'll start
great
sending
interviews,
people your way.
Great interviews, and I want to put them in a directory because I'm building that directory.
Absolutely.
I want a directory of all resources, all nonprofits, all businesses, and I want it to be so that people, when you're in a civil, as a realtor, when I'm selling a home, they're like, "Hey, I need an inspector." I'm like, "Go to the website.
Yeah.
We got inspectors, we got electricians. We're not there yet. We don't have 70, so we don't have everything.
Right.
But I want it to be where we have everything, and I'd like to be nationwide, like an Angie's List." For when anyone wants to hire a veteran, they can go there and hire a veteran.
Yes.
Or when a veteran wants to find a veteran, they can find that veteran through the podcast because they go to their listing. Like I told you, click it. Hear Scott talking. Be like,
That's
you know
it.
what? I feel comfortable talking to that guy. I don't think he's going to tell me to go pound sand.
I won't.
I know you won't. Exactly.
Unless you talk bad about the Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, and Celtics.
Bill Buckner.
Bill
Buckner.
He's been forgiven. In 2004, he was forgiven.
He had to be forgiven. That poor guy.
poor
He
bastard.
was a great
They
player.
actually brought him out. They brought him out when they
Yeah.
won, and everyone gave him a standing ovation in 2004. But and that's how I end every Vets Connection podcast.
Yeah.
Well, we built another bridge today because I'm about building bridges.
100%.
We're all islands.
Yes.
Let's build these bridges to these islands, and that way just cross over and go see them or them or them. So we're on the same course,
Exactly.
running in the same lane. And if you're interested in the One Man One Mic Foundation, well, that's the website, www.onemanOneMicFoundation.org, and it gives you a breakdown of everything that we do there. It's an amazing journey that I'm on, and it's
And give me the links because I'm going to put that on all our videos that we put. We're going to put shorts out all week.
certainly will,
and we're
yeah.
going to put out the long form content as well.
Yeah.
But even the shorts that are like 30 seconds to 3 minutes,
Sure.
I always put a link to anything that you want. Just
And if you're interested in equine assisted services, Herd Foundation in Delray Beach.
All
It's an
that.
8-acre horse farm in the middle of East Delray that nobody knows is there.
Wow.
Yeah, and we do a lot of beautiful work with the veterans. We get the domiciliary from the.
I might go back because the only reason I stopped was because it was in St. Cloud.
Yeah.
My at the time my life went upside down, so I left there. So I came down here. I didn't even know
This
they
is
had
right
one
off
here.
Atlantic and Military.
Oh, wow.
It's like
How is it? Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a half a mile down from Atlantic
Incredible.
on Military, heading north. If you go
I loved
that
it.
way.
I loved it. I had the horse of Liberty. Was my
Yeah.
horse. Yeah.
Go back. I'll give you the contact. Get in touch with Rhonda, and You know,
And you're such a supporter and advocate. Give me their contact.
Oh, I certainly
we'll
will.
put it in the shorts also.
I'll give you all
anything
the
you
stuff.
want me to promote, I'll put it there as well. All the links.
And that's the thing. So someone asked me, how are you juggling all these?
I
How do
know.
you juggle
It's a
being
lot,
part of Herd Foundation and having your own foundation? Well, I tell people when I'm dealing with my foundation that Herd Foundation is my foundation. It's because of them. I'll never leave them in the dust. Like, oh, that there was a launching pad.
No.
One thing I am
Loyal.
I'm loyal to a fault, and that's been one of my probably shortfalls. I'm loyal to a fault, where when I'm loyal.
That's why we get so
somebody,
pissed when you get betrayed, though. That's why I
that's
get really
why
pissed when I get betrayed.
It
I'm
makes
like,
it
damn.
harder when I give everything to you. I'm loyal to you.
Yeah, and you hurt me. It hurts me
hurts a
10
little
times.
extra.
It hurts me 10 times harder because I'm like, man.
But fortunately, that hasn't happened too much in my life because it's hard to find somebody that's loyal. Like, you can have friends and you can have buddies and you can have acquaintances, but when you become part of my life and we become friends, I have no reason not to be loyal to you.
Exactly.
You have not showed me any reason not to be. So it's like I give it all into a friendship. I look at friendships like, here's my family. They're on another level. They're on a plane. But like right below it is friendships. If there's no real gap, I treat my friends and they have they have a special level in my life. And they're my friends, and I treasure friendships.
Well, for me, I don't have a choice.
Right.
I have a cousin. My brothers and sisters
You have
don't
no
talk
choice.
to me,
Yeah.
and I don't like them either. You know, they're my
I've
half
had
brothers.
that relationship.
They're half brothers, half sisters, and the half is my stepfather. Well, my stepfather was a jerk. He's not my biological. He's evil, and they're evil. You know?
I've had that relationship.
So,
yeah.
I don't have
Siblings
a choice.
is another.
My brothers, my brothers are my veterans, man.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
that's all I have.
Yeah.
So my family is my veterans.
Yeah.
Other than my cousin Rob, and you know, and I got cousins that like they'll Facebook me. But as far as having a real relationship with family, it's just my cousin Rob.
They say you can't pick
you know?
your family, but you get to pick your
I
friends.
get to pick all my friends,
Yeah.
and they really are my family. Like,
Yeah.
I got brothers.
As we
man.
get older,
I got really deep friendships with, and they're all veterans. You know, all Marines.
And as we get older, friendships become more treasured.
more
cherished.
treasured, yeah.
I've watched some fall along the way that I grew up with, and it's
Some
you know,
do.
as my brother says,
But it happens too. That's sad.
the
but it
herd
happens.
starts to thin after a while.
It does.
You know, so
I've had to like get rid of some friends.
my
too,
father's
unfortunately.
90, and all his friends are gone. He's the
Wow.
last of the gang.
Wow.
You know, that's kind of a blessing and a curse, as I said earlier about Facebook.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. He's blessed to be alive at 90 and still kicking and going good.
But that's a rough life too. When
But
you're
he's lonely.
When you're alone.
Yeah, his friends and his friends.
Oh,
That's where I
my
learned
friends,
how to
that-
have friendships.
I want to be the first to go. I got a heart condition, so I pretty much think I'm the first to go.
to
So
get
that's
to
good.
go. God forbid, but I don't know if I.
Now I'm good to be the
Let
first
me
to
ponder
get.
that one first. Yeah. I might not be in. How about
Depends-
second to last?
Depends technology. If they can come up with some cool technology,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
fix my shoulder, fix my lower back, my neck.
Yeah,
I'm good. You know.
Like, how about
Make me a
second to
team
last?
set.
I'll settle with second to last. But yeah, so that's my story, bro. That's my story. The story how I got there is it's a pretty sad and gory and upsetting story. I just gave you like a hairline
Surface.
of it,
The
yeah,
surface.
surface of it. But that's what got me to where I am today. You know, doing what I'm doing, and it's an amazing journey late in life. You know, I'm not gonna. I have no delusions. I am in the beginning of the winter of my years. You know, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. And I want to. This has really kicked in lately. I don't know when this really, but what am I going to leave behind? Okay, he was a great guy, but what am I leave? What's my legacy? What am I leaving behind? I got 157 podcasts that are never going to be more by the time I go. But what is it really? And this is just me. I don't hold this to anybody. What did you do to make a difference? You know, in the big picture. That's how I look at it. When I go, someone's going to say, he made a difference in people's lives, in veterans' lives, especially
100%.
veterans' lives.
100%.
Even if it's in the big, half of a percent, doesn't matter. You made a difference in somebody's life, a bunch of people's lives, hopefully.
And it's evergreen. It's there forever.
Yes.
You know, it's evergreen. And I think what's most important is that message. That message, whichever message it is, for whatever episode you're doing, that's what's important. And that's what's evergreen. That's fantastic. So when you say, what are you leaving behind? What's your legacy? It's like, my legacy is I left positive messages for folks that are lost. And that maybe one of those, they listen to one of those messages and it helps them find the way. You know, like not trying to be corny or sound like
no.
It's
special, true. It's like
but it's the fact. It's out there.
Get to a point where
and
you
I
look
felt
at
like
it that
too.
way.
I felt like, you know what? I'm putting out my story there, you know, and I know someone's going to resonate with it.
Yeah.
You know, I've done a lot of trash.
Absolutely. And you got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna look probably a year from now, and it's gonna be so much bigger. You know, you might even have your own spot. You might have your warrior.
Warfighter Sanctuary.
Warfighter Sanctuary.
That's what I want. That's my goal. Well, and I'll I think I shared this with you, but you know, I told you I was doing these auditions and these short films. Well, I got selected to do a reality show.
You were saying that.
Millionaire Maker. And when I get there,
go get him, buddy.
I'm gonna be like, why are you here? I'm here for
him.
the Warfighter Sanctuary. Why do you need a mentor? To help me with the Warfighter
That's
Sanctuary.
right.
That's it, man.
That's
I mean,
right.
that's it. I don't want to be a millionaire. What am I gonna do with millions?
No.
You know, really. And I'm a deep thinker, and I go, man, if I had all these billions of dollars, what would I do? It wouldn't be enough to make me happy. What would make me happy was to have a Warfighter Sanctuary in every major city in America where veterans can leave the military and have a place to transition and find other brothers and not commit suicide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is all I would want. You know, and because I know it would be the solution that we're looking for.
There you go.
So,
That's like I said, that's a beautiful thing, man. You'll get it.
Yeah, I feel.
I have 100%. You'll get that.
I feel confident.
When you're driven and you're motivated, you'll get it.
I'm relentless.
Yeah.
You know, like I told you, I have 107 subscribers, and that people go, oh, you only got 100.
Doesn't matter.
To me,
no. Yeah.
that is like, yes, I'm crushing it with my 107
And
subscribers.
then you say, how many is your podcast? Oh, that's right. You don't do it.
So you got 0. It's all relative. So how you look at it, it's all perspective.
Sorry, you're not doing it.
It's all
I'm
perspective.
sorry. Yeah.
So I feel like, hey, I'm pushing, and again, like I don't care if nobody watches it because, well, not that nobody watches it, but it's going to be linked to the website,
right?
So you can always find that, and I think that's so profound and important.
I'll link it to my Vets Connection podcast.
Absolutely,
website.
we'd be grateful because again, it's helping veterans.
Yeah.
You know, so, and same with us. I'm going to definitely put you on our
I appreciate that. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Force multiplying.
And putting out resources, and the more it spreads, it might be slow, but it's getting. It's moving.
It's getting. As long as I'm alive, it's not going to stop.
There you go.
Even if I put just 1 inch a day, it's I'm putting in the reps. I'm putting in the work.
That's it.
So
all right, man.
So Scott, so what's going on? Are we good to go, or do you think there's some more you want to share?
Oh,
Are you
no,
gonna come back? Are you going to come back?
Yeah, I'll come back anytime you want. This is great, man.
Excellent.
And I have to say that I've done podcasts, you know, a lot of them in my house, in my kitchen studio, and it's always at the end when someone says, "This was great," and I'm always thinking, because you know, you maybe make me feel good. No, this was great.
Excellent.
So now I know how they feel when they finish a good interview, when they finish a good podcast interview.
Good.
They know, they're like, this was pretty cool, man. You know,
is great.
And it was fun being on this side of the microphone for once.
I can't wait to be
You'll
on
be on there.
You're gonna put me in the hot seat.
I'm gonna.
How
put
was
you
it?
in
Was
the
it
hot
good?
seat.
It wasn't a hot seat. You were just telling
No, this was great, man.
Excellent.
Well, we're comfortable behind microphones. So
Excellent.
There was no.
I wasn't always. I told you my story. I was
Oh,
terrified.
none of us were. If you
terrified.
listen to episode 1 through 20 of my milk
Yeah.
crates and turntables, then you listen to 157.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, I'm still below 20.
It's a whole different thing.
I'm
No,
still
you
under my
did
20.
just fine. You have good delivery. You have good tone. You have good energy. You know, you're confident.
Thank you.
And
I'm
that's
working
the
on
stuff
it. I'm
that
trying to get
people
better.
look for. That's
I'm trying to
what
get better. And I try not to talk as much. Sometimes it's really hard.
So I cut myself out of a lot of it.
When I do this, I'm making myself shut up.
I'm the same way.
Because I want to. You're
Yes.
saying so much stuff that resonates with me, but I don't want your message to get diluted. So
Right.
I'm trying to wait, but it's really hard sometimes for me, and I'm learning to be more patient.
So what I
and working on
do
that.
is I have cut myself out of episodes, like
okay.
you and I are going to talk, and we'll have a side conversation, and it's just being recorded, and I know I'm going to edit it, and then I'll go back and I'll listen. I'll be like, they don't really need to hear that, but that's just me saying that because I don't want to hear me, right?
Yeah.
And I'll kind of eliminate me through, not all of it, like I'm still in it, I have to be heard. But what I found though, is in those side conversations, people always go down another rabbit hole. And you're like, that's the shit right there. and it just happened out of a conversation.
Yes.
So I cut this piece out, and it transitions into their idea or what they started talking about during our conversation.
Gotcha, but you get to take out that
So,
chunk.
yeah, so I
Got
found,
it.
and they don't know that happened. The listener
Yeah.
doesn't know that happened. There's 7 minutes of just like, like we're doing right now,
Sidebars,
shooting
yeah.
shit.
Yep.
But when you're listening to it, I learned that while I'm interviewing them, I hear these things and I kind of mental note it. This is good. All right, now that's part of it. That's part of it. And I just take these mental notes. When I start going to edit it, I'm like, now we're in the good part. Let me just chop this out. This is what the listeners want to hear. Because I do it as a listener.
Exactly.
And that's how you
I try
have to
to.
do
That's
it,
why
yeah.
I try not to talk, or I have repetitive
But
stories.
you have good
yeah.
conversation. It's good conversation. It wasn't intrusive. It wasn't overbearing.
Good.
It was relevant to what we were talking about. So, yeah, and this is just my professional opinion.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank
you did. You did a great job back and forth.
And I wanted
And
to
that's your style.
Yeah.
Everybody has their style.
I do. I try.
Yeah,
I try.
no,
I mean,
everybody has
and
their
you're
style.
learning too. Like you said, you're up episode 20. You kind
Yeah.
of learned where you're at now compared to then.
You're gonna
I'm
fine
still trying
tune
to
your
figure it
style
out.
a little more. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm still trying to figure it out. One thing we didn't mention, but we did, was because in this show, I'd like to talk about the transition, the challenges. But you mentioned it, but it's just 10 seconds. You had no challenge. It was right.
I went right in.
Right from the
I walked
military.
right into it.
You walked right in.
I had 6 months
and those
off.
are great stories too.
Yeah.
Those are excellent stories too.
Yeah,
You know.
I had 6 months off. Nice vacation.
Yeah.
I was working in my brother's girlfriend's gym, opening up at 5 a.m, getting paid under the table,
Yeah.
collecting unemployment.
Yeah.
And it was just, then 6 months later, I'm in Front Royal, Virginia at the
Wow.
U.S. Customs
Excellent.
Canine Enforcement Training Center.
So the lesson there is, if you're going to,
I lucked out.
Get into law enforcement though, right? That's a great.
But law enforcement, I
good
just
route.
happened to get very lucky. I went down to
Yeah.
Nogales saying, I'm going to get a job. I'm coming out of this with a job.
Got it.
And I did. I busted my ass. They liked me. I was straight up. I was, and they were like, he's a good worker. He's a good person. They could trust me. And I was supposed to originally go down to Douglas, Arizona.
Ooh, that's rough.
That's
Right.
where my original, but I was still in the military. They hired me while I was still in the Air Force.
Yeah.
I was on my last 2 months.
Yeah.
I was on, I forget what they call it, terminal leave.
Terminal leave. Yep.
And I said, I can't just leave. So what happens, I got out, they filled the position, but I had my background clearance. I called Miami. They're like, oh, you're going to have to go through. I said, I got a clearance pass. They were like, what?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, here, call this
Yeah.
guy.
I had a
And they
TS. I had a
picked me up like
TSSCI.
that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I got very lucky with that.
Excellent.
I've been blessed throughout my life, to have someone's looking over me and leads me right into these. I have to find my way there. Sometimes that ain't easy, but it always seems to work.
And the reason I want to touch on that is also because you mentioned you had that quick transition from the military right into the civilian world. So you weren't running into it like a lot of the problems, the trauma that we deal with is like way later, like you were saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I tell that too because that happened to me as well. I transitioned from the military, worked for the DOD with a top secret clearance. I was working in Sierra Vista, for Fort Huachuca, the U.S. Army Intelligence Center. So I had it like, man, I'm going from being a staff sergeant, now I'm making $100-something thousand a year. I'm doing great. So guess what? Yeah, but I was suffering. I just didn't realize it yet. You know what I mean? I was going through trauma. I just didn't know it. Because my life was stable and I had routine and I had purpose.
You're living with it.
And I had
you don't
tried.
understand it, yeah.
And then as time went on, then it started catching up, just like it did with you. And then you found the requirement inside of you to do the
what I
podcast.
did
and to go out and
struggle
do
with
that.
when I first got out and I got that job with Customs back in '97 with $38,000 a year, I thought that was a lot of money.
Wow.
That was a problem. Because now you go.
You were a veteran. You were like,
now you go from base housing where everything's free to you got to pay first, last, in a deposit.
I tell people
and you
that
got to
all
put
the
a
time.
deposit down on electric because we're in Florida, South Florida, and all this money things. It
How
was
about
like
chow? Now no more 3 meals a day or 4.
No,
midnights.
fortunately, my wife's Filipino. She can make
Oh,
a
nice.
masterpiece out of nothing. So, yeah, those were the struggles. Financially, I was borrowing, but we eventually dug our way out of it. And, stayed with the job and made more money, and things eventually worked out. That was really the only struggle I struggled with because I didn't have time to let anything settle in. I went from law enforcement to law
And I
enforcement.
think that's what it is because you're so busy, you don't have the time
And
for it to
that
hit
gun
you.
is everything. You do not tip your hand to anybody when you're in law enforcement, because if they take that gun, you're done. That is like, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
You're going to sit behind a desk, then you're not going to be able to fulfill your duty, and that's a bad avenue to go down. So people, a lot of law enforcement, I touched on it, you said it earlier, first responders are a tough group to break into while they're on the job, because they don't ever want to show weakness. Firemen, because they'll get pulled out of the house. Cops, because they'll get pulled off the road, they're going to lose it. So they hold all this shit in, which is what I did, what I know all my friends that did, that had the same issues that were law enforcement.
Too.
Exactly.
They got a little better. They got a little better now, but still.
But there's still that thing in the back
Of
head
course,
saying, I don't want to take the chance of losing my gun. If I lose my weapon because they think I'm crazy. Meanwhile, you don't know, you don't even think about the HIPAA, right? HIPAA's not supposed to, it won't involve, but you don't care. It's like,
But
you have
they
to come to
have.
work like this anyways. You
But
have to come to
HIPAA,
work.
they have, you know, time.
Oh, HIPAA means something, but to the regular police, it's like, I don't trust it.
Yeah.
I don't trust it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They'll because it's true. Like,
Yeah.
I was when the thing happened to me. You know, they posted that I had PTSD and I didn't. I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't have PTSD. At the time, I wasn't diagnosed with it.
Yeah.
But they did it anyway. I was like, because I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're a veteran, so you got PTSD. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
man.
my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Really bad stigma.
So that gun is everything, and you don't show weakness. And again, you have to come to work like this,
Yeah.
up here, every day.
Yeah.
You can't be down here. You can't come to work. If you do, you could be detrimental to somebody.
Yep.
You know, your partner or the people, the team that you're working with.
100%.
You know, and if you are, you let them know, and then they cover for you. But you got to stay up here, and you got to be go, go, go. So you don't have time to think about any of it. Like, you're like, I'm just going to function. Just function. You know? I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Now, I talked to my daughter today. It's funny we're talking about this. I talked to my daughter today. We had breakfast, and we were talking about my foundation, my little journey, and I said, yeah, you know what? I never really looked back. I said, but I think I was probably a little rough on you guys. I might have been short-tempered at times, and she didn't disagree with me. She's my little girl, and she's, you know, that's daddy's girl. And she didn't disagree with me, which spoke volumes. And, you know, I'm not going to apologize because there's no sense, you know what I mean? But she gets it. She gets it. And so, you know, those things come back later.
Yeah.
And you look back, and I don't like
I feel-
regrets.
I
But
don't
we
either.
all have some.
Yeah. Oh, I have regrets.
You know?
I don't know
We
if
all
people
have
can
some.
say, if I could do it all over again, I would do it exactly the same. I'm like, you're crazy.
Well, remember what we talked about earlier. Everything happens for a reason.
Everything does, but there's
if you
things-
took that left
Yeah.
turn,
Yeah.
or if you changed that regret,
The trajectory would be different.
think about So we know the timeline, right? There's
Yeah,
always
timeline.
science fiction. You
Yeah,
see
yeah,
these
yeah.
timelines. Don't alter the timeline. You made that wrong decision and you hurt that person or whatever. It's all part of the big picture. It's what sent you back onto the
On this
timeline.
trajectory, yeah.
So
Yep.
if you're happy with your life now, then you'd be
I am.
like, I wouldn't change
I am
anything.
very happy with my life.
And
now. I'm in a
know,
great
you're-
place.
You're
So
like I am, probably happier now than you have been in a long time.
Yeah.
And so those regrets are they're just scars. It's just a scar. That's it. You know, they're gone. It's always there, but it's done. Over and the damage done, and you move on. I wouldn't change anything. I don't know. I think we look back at our youth too, and we think it's way better than it really was. Right?
Mine was pretty epic.
Isn't
though.
it funny how we only remember the good things?
No, I remember the bad things.
We got
too.
some bad things.
I remember some bad
But
things.
for the most part,
Yeah.
it's like, damn, we had a good time growing up. Like, we were in a great time. We were in the 80s and we were in the 90s, and it was a great time. Well, maybe it wasn't so great. I wouldn't want to live it again. I'm happy where it took me a long time to get to where I am today.
No, I love life right now. Life
Yeah.
is so good. I get to do these interviews. I get to meet people every day.
Yeah,
I get
man.
to be pushing just an inch closer toward the goal line.
Yes.
To get to where I'm getting, and I see the progress every single day as you do.
Yes.
To you, so
And it's just amazing. Like,
Yeah.
eyes are wide open.
wide open.
Sensories are all alive. And I'm just like excited. You know, I'm big into stimulating my brain, working with dogs, training dogs. It's and knowing the behaviors of dogs. I went deeper. I have a degree in canine science.
Oh, nice.
So I went deep into the behaviors and the physiology and anatomy and all that stuff of a dog. It was part of
Excellent.
the college course that I took, and it's very stimulating. Now, I'm not a brainiac by any means, but that stuff stimulates my brain, and I love that.
Yeah.
And with the horses, that re-stimulated. And the thing about horses is dogs and horses are totally different.
Totally different.
Dogs are predators, horses are prey.
Yeah, that's why they got the eyes over here.
Yep, and it's the way they.
And anything scares the crap out of them.
Horses lived 65 million years in trauma. They live in trauma because they're prey, right? So what better animal to work with than working with, people with PTSD? But I digress. So this is stimulating to me. Everything I'm doing and getting into it.
It keeps you alive.
Yeah,
It keeps you young too.
Yeah,
You know?
and it gives you purpose. I have purpose now. This is it. I had purpose then. Now I have a new purpose.
Exactly.
And you can have multiple purposes in your life.
Yeah.
Just be good. I just want to be good at this one.
Exactly.
And that's the goal.
And like you were saying about the pain, the suffering, but the more you suffer, I say it's like lifting weights. If you're lifting if you're lifting 5 pounds, well, but if you're lifting heavy weight, you're gonna make a big difference.
Right.
So the more pain you feel, the more suffering you feel, the greater the reward.
That pain starts to change at 60, though. The 59, 58,
Tell me about it.
Tell
me about it.
That's a little different pain sometimes.
Yeah. Oh man, tell me about it. I'm in pain all the time. But Scott, thank you so much for coming,
buddy. This was great.
This was excellent. I love it. I love it. And you're gonna hook me up because I need to learn from you.
Yes.
I need to learn from you.
I'll let you know.
And we're gonna force multiply because now I'm your disciple. Okay,
Yeah.
you're gonna be like like JC,
questions,
and I'm gonna
anything
be
you
when it comes to
want.
podcasts, and I'm gonna be a disciple, and I'm gonna spread this because what you just told me it was profound to me. I didn't realize the power of storytelling for a lot of folks that are
So
suffering with
why don't we
trauma.
do this? When I get the studio put together, it's an 8-week course. It's once a week for
I'm
like
in it.
90 minutes.
I need it desperately.
And we'll do it in person. You already have a jump on it.
Yep.
On the podcasting aspect of it.
Maybe I can help the other veterans that need some
Yeah,
guidance.
or even if it's just you and me doing a one, then we can really get into
Yeah.
the storytelling, because storytelling, as much as you're a good storyteller and I am, you can always be
Always
better.
learn, of course, 100%.
And you can be more effective
100%.
and more effective. So how's this?
I need help with my storytelling. Okay, you go first, but I gotta
this?
save ground. Go ahead.
So I'm having my first fundraiser at the Boca Black Box the night after Veterans Day. The Boca Black Box, it's this 275
November 11th.
seat theater, right?
Okay.
275 seat theater.
Or 12.
It's a nice theater, right?
Okay.
They just redid it. Stage, microphone. It's like a comedy club.
Nice.
Tribute bands come through. They're always booked. There's always something going on there. I'm doing a story. I call it Story Lab, and I'm having veterans come up on stage, live, first person stories, unscripted, no notes, just tell a story to the audience. 6 to 10 minutes.
Right.
It could be any story you want.
I'm down.
Right?
I've done it once. I'm down.
Yeah.
I got a million stories.
So I want to do it. I have 7 veterans, right? Lisa, I asked Lisa if she wants to do it.
Okay.
Lisa's hard to pin down.
Okay.
Lisa's hard to, she's got 100 things going on.
Yeah.
But she got the offer, and she'll confirm or not. But I'd love to have you be one of the veterans to come up.
Yeah.
And my goal is to sell this thing out.
Okay.
And for somebody to have a fundraiser, their first fundraiser, and this is outside the box. Like, you go to fundraisers and it's like $150 a ticket, and it's all, glitz and glam. This is come as you are. It's $60 that's going toward the foundation. That's it. You don't pay because you're going to be one of the presenters, but you can help promote it too.
Yes, I will.
It's going to be on the Boca Black Box website. The whole thing. And for somebody to sell out their first fundraiser and get over to it, and I'm going to make this happen. And I'm going to go even more outside the box, and I'm going to try to live stream it.
Nice.
Over a YouTube channel and a Facebook channel.
Excellent.
And live stream a fundraiser, which nobody has ever done.
Excellent.
That's the way I think. I think outside the box.
Because then
different.
I'm gonna write down your recipe for your fundraiser because I need to do a fundraiser at some point.
Yes.
I hate fundraising and I hate asking.
Nobody
for
likes
money.
it. Nobody likes it.
I don't enjoy that part.
Yeah.
But I do need And maybe let's talk offline. I think now we're talking.
So this guy that I'm teaching, one of the guys that I'm teaching, he has traumatic brain injury. He got blown up in Syria, of all places. Army guy, in a Bradley. So that was a Bradley.
Yeah.
He started his foundation, Silent Wounds, Silent Warriors, and he's starting a foundation, and he wants to start a podcast. And he's going through my course.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of guiding him on the steps because I did my nonprofit pretty fast. Like July 2nd, I started the paperwork. By July 26th, I was approved by the state and the IRS, which is fucking unheard of. Like it just, something blessed me to do this. Everything moved fast. So yeah, whatever questions you might have, I'm pretty sure it's fresh in my mind. I probably have an answer for a nonprofit. So I'm helping him do both. So, but I would love for you to be one of the storytellers.
I can tell
at
stories.
my fundraiser.
Yeah.
And it's all shapes and sizes, different tones, different stories. It's going to be great.
I got a million stories. But what I wanted to tell you
was
that I need help telling the story of the Warfighter Sanctuary in a concise, because you've heard it, but it's all over. I got so much. I want to be able to spit it out, elevator speech.
What's your mission statement?
The mission statement is tribe and purpose. I mean, that's bringing veterans together for tribe and purpose.
So a mission statement.
And I have a formal mission statement written down verbatim.
But it has to be something that it's like a paragraph at the most,
4 or 5 lines,
and it says everything.
Yes.
Now I'm going to give you a great tool to use if you haven't already used it.
Right.
Take your mission statement, go to ChatGPT.
I use that every day for everything.
Put it in there and say rewrite in the simplest form, and then colon, and then paste it in there. And watch what it gives you. It gives you, and it will simplify it for you. If it's too long or it's too
short,
or however you want to do it.
ChatGPT for everything.
But your mission statement is how you should tell people what you do. And what you do is a lot of stuff. It's got a lot going on there. But you have to, bring it in
so that it's easily to understand that I'm not trying to put something new. I'm trying to be the
Don't
director
describe
to
what's
everything
in
else.
there. Describe what it will offer. You know what I mean? There's a difference between saying, I want a podcast thing, and I want a gym, and I want Xboxes,
No.
That's what you have to define, is how to word that, because that's the meat of it.
Morale, wellness, recreation, and a business center. I mean, that's...
So you're on to something with the morale, get rid of the wellness, put in... So you can use connectedness, use those words that are connected.
But the reason I use that specific morale, wellness, and recreation is
military.
Because the military, MWR, people go instantly.
So there you go.
When
that's
someone hears,
idea.
someone hears MWR that's never heard of Warfighter Sanctuary, they go, "Oh, that." I go, but imagine with a purpose. We're not just there to hang out. We got a business center. You got podcasts. Oh,
so what if I'm a civilian though, and you want to come to me for funding? That's the question. Right. So you're gonna, hey Scott, listen, I got this great idea.
It's MWR.
I'm looking for fun. Yeah, and I'm gonna go, what's MWR? And you're gonna say morale, wellness, and recreation. And I'm gonna think,
when we were in Iraq, when we were in theater, when I went on missions in this tin can with no doors, and I got home, there was nowhere safe. But I'd go to the MWR. We'd play Halo.
Yeah.
We'd play some board games, or we just shoot the shit. And there was no alcohol because we're in a time of war. But man, that was decompression. That was all we had. Why don't we have that here? That's it. So when I explain to a civilian, even though they don't know what it is, they go, "Oh, I go think of like a YMCA
or a rec center." So civilians can
a rec center,
recreation
a
center,
local rec center, recreation
that promotes post-traumatic growth. They love that term.
Post-traumatic growth.
I was saying post-traumatic treatment.
Write that down.
And I forgot to say it. I was like post-traumatic
I like that.
I said,
yeah.
But
we got to speak the
language. When you use the words post-traumatic growth, that's part of storytelling. There's 4 pillars to post-traumatic growth: storytelling, belonging, purpose, and connection.
Just tribe. Right. We're saying the same thing. Tribe is connection.
So those
purpose, we already said that.
Like the pillars. Yeah, the pillars. Purpose, it's transcendency. So you got storytelling, transcendency, belonging, and purpose, right? And I touched on all of those in there. Those are the pillars to post-traumatic growth, right? And that's what you want to use the term. I want to create a center that fosters post-traumatic growth in a recreational style, a modern recreational style.
But with a focus on purpose-driven.
Yeah, and then you can just kind of, take that little
throw it in
right there.
ChatGPT, regurgitate,
regenerate. Rewrite a mission statement for but use the words post-traumatic growth because that catches people's attention.
Yeah. The keywords are critical. Words are critical, especially when you're looking for
and the
funding.
mission statement is what
money.
people, that's all they want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, what's your mission statement? And when you put in, so when I send something out in an email to request something, I put in there post-traumatic growth, PTSD, traumatic brain injury. Those are real key words that people listen, that catches their attention.
Well, I'm glad we kept going talking because this is important stuff. Like it goes back to what you were saying about 15 minutes ago when you were like, we talked these rabbit holes, but then great things flourish out of it.
Yes.
Well, with that, I'm writing a business plan now for Warfighter Sanctuary. And it's always been in my mission to have a podcast area because of this. And I always envisioned it like people can schedule it. Like any better can schedule it. Like, hey, Wednesday I need it from this time to this time. Okay, we have 4 mics. We have the setup. They can just bring like the little thing in the background to make it theirs, change the colors because, I have all this Wi-Fi coloring. Alexa, all lights blue. Like, I can do that, and I would like that to do it in the podcast area.
Okay.
Now she listens to me. So I like that. And then they can make their podcast area different.
Yeah.
But with everything that you said, the 4 pillars, all that, now I know that the podcast is a lot more critical than I thought it would be at my Warfighter Sanctuary. So part of my business plan, could you help me write that section of the business plan about how to create that podcast and what it should have? And
I mean, I can give you my thoughts on what it should be.
Exactly.
Did you ever go to ChatGPT and say, write me a business plan for?
Yeah, I'm doing that too. I know. I'm getting people like. I've turned so many people. Just like you tried to convert me, I'm already on it.
Yeah.
But I've converted so many people. I'm like, listen. They're like, oh no, I like to write.
But I don't want to give everybody the secret. Let them find it on their own. Now and I'm sure you can tell if I sent you an email that was written by Chat, you're gonna know.
But
there's words that you never use.
But I change things.
Exactly.
But you're laughing. But it's not cheating. Like
no,
people,
it's not cheating.
I know, but sometimes people go look at it like it's cheating. I go, it's not cheating. Because when I worked for the DOD, and I was just telling, because I just flipped. I turned one of my friends onto it because he goes, well, I write my document. I go, you work for the DOD. When you write something for the general, do you really write it, or do you give it to someone else to look it over? About 4 people, they call it staffing a document. Yeah. I would get my document. I want the general, the GO to make a signature.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to my colleague. He's going to look at it. He's going to give it to Jerry. She's going to look at it. Emily's going to chop on it. They're going to chop on it. It's going to get to me. When I get to it, I don't recognize it, but it's kind of mine, but it's bad. Well, guess what? ChatGPT does that in 10 seconds, and you don't got to bother Emily, Jerry, and Danny. I can just go click, and it's done. And then, but it doesn't give you the 100% solution, I always say. It gives you the 95% solution. Yeah. You got to go in there. If you're too lazy, everyone's going to see that it's just ChatGPT. But if you go in there and you tweak it, it's yours. So I tweak it, so it's mine.
I'm a good writer.
I'm a great writer.
Yeah,
I'm an
in
excellent
reality,
writer.
I'm a great
That's
writer.
How I survived
I
in the
can
DOD
really get a
after
point
the
across.
military. Yeah.
But if I take that and I say, write this in email form for... Yeah. Well, it just presents better. It's my words.
Yes.
It just presents better.
Exactly.
And then you can, if you don't like that version, give me another version.
Here's another hack. You know what I do?
Simplify this and then take that.
Exactly.
Do it like that.
Exactly. Yeah. What I'll do is when I transcribe our podcast, now I got to do daily episodes. Here, everyone can hear this now. I got to put like the daily shorts. I can't write there every day a daily short.
I know.
So what I do is I take the transcription, which could be this long or this long, and I say, write a social media post, Warfighter Sanctuary, hosted by André Rivera, guest, Scott McLean, and I'm going to put the transcription, summarize this in a social media post, and it does it. And I still got to give, like I said, still 95%. I got to go in there and tweak a little bit, but then I'm done.
I use Restream, right? And Restream is what I use to upload my podcast to the podcast universe. Now, there's a part of it where it says channels. Yeah. And you go in and you put your RSS feed. Now, your RSS feed is, I don't know if you've seen it, but I don't know if you know what it is.
Yeah,
it's the
like my
code.
Address. It's like my address.
Yeah, it's the code for your podcast, exactly. So what it does is you'll put your RSS feed and you'll just apply to Amazon. You'll apply to, whatever, Pocket Cast and the whole thing. And then they accept it, and then that's when you publish it.
I desperately need your course.
Yes. And also what Restream offers now is called Co-Host AI. It's cost a little more.
I like the name of that already.
Yeah, it costs a little more, but when you put it into Co-Host AI, dude, it gives you 5 titles to choose from.
Man.
It gives you the whole everything. Have you ever thought about going to a morale, welfare, recreation center, and it will give a whole breakdown of what the episode was about. It gives the André Scott. I just got to fill in the names. It does everything for you. Saves a lot of typing. And then I just go in and I might correct the spelling of your name somewhere. Then I just send it out.
Done. Fire
It
and forget.
reads nice. I don't have to do all that shit.
Excellent.
And I pay like an extra, I don't know, $8 a month for it.
Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. My time costs so much more than this.
Yeah. That's just the audio podcast.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, your video podcast might be a little, I don't know if they can do video on Restream. So, I mean on Buzzsprout. I do it on Buzzsprout.
Well,
yeah.
we're going to talk about all that. I need
Yeah,
to learn
absolutely.
all of those because I'm just
Absolutely.
doing, like you said, I'm just doing YouTube and Spotify, and I need to get smart on all this stuff.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, let me
Okay.
know, man. What are you
All right.
sending it out through?
Nothing.
How are you sending it to Spotify? You just went right to Spotify? And,
I just went to. I was going directly to Spotify. I haven't put the last couple of episodes on Spotify.
yeah.
But I need to, and I've just been putting on YouTube. I've just been consistent with YouTube, but not anything else.
So the audio, are you doing the video on Spotify?
Video.
That's what they have is the video part of it now. Yeah. Yeah.
Video and
So that's the stuff. Now the audio, what you should do is take your audio, right?
of all the past
and make
episodes.
that its own podcast.
Because that gets
So-
heard.
Yeah, it gets heard, and you're going to reach
Yeah.
more people. So
I see. There's things I'm missing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you came to this podcast.
yeah, just put
You're
it out
helping
there.
me more than I help you.
Again, you'll
Yeah.
cut it off like at this
Yeah.
point. You'll even if it's just a natural conversation.
Yeah.
You know, just put it out there, and people will listen to that shit.
Yeah.
They'll listen.
I
to
think
it.
we should leave this. I think
You
this
know?
is good right here. I think because they're seeing organically how to do a
Yeah.
podcast. I think.
Yeah.
I think there's.
It
there's
gets
some,
to a long form part of the podcast. You know, there's,
I'm gonna cut the shorts. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
the shorts, but I don't
Absolutely.
mind the long too much because it's as long as we can say something crazy. That's
Yeah.
that's the only time I'm worried about edits. But other
look
than
up that what
Yeah.
I mentioned to you. There's video AI, video podcast AI editing.
okay, I need
Where
that.
you upload it into it and it jumps from camera to camera. As I'm talking,
That's the
as
one I
you're talking,
need.
as I'm
That's the
talking.
one I need.
I stumbled upon it like a couple months ago, and I know it exists.
Is it on Adobe Premiere Pro?
I don't know what it's on. I think it's its own program,
Oh.
and you would just take your video and just upload it into that,
Pain in the neck doing
and it
that.
chops it for you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll
Pay-
look it up.
pay
I'll see
whatever
if I
it
can
is.
find
That's
it.
how they're
for you.
gonna get
I'll
us
text it
because
to you.
I'm down to pay for that. Because
Yeah.
I'm sitting here for 8 hours trying to work on one
oh.
episode. I sat here longer than 8 hours to do that last episode I did.
It's worth-
It was
yeah,
so
it's
miserable.
worth
I was
it.
yelling, screaming. I was pissed
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And so I'll pay whatever to just
Absolutely,
get it done,
man. Yeah, yeah.
But,
But yeah, so I'm gonna have my wife's birthday today. We're going to
excellent.
Fort Lauderdale. It's
Nice.
just Hughes or something catering, but every like month they have a thing, and tonight it just happens to be a New England clam bake.
Oh, nice.
Lobsters and
Oh,
everything. It's like a
great.
buffet. It's like $95 a person.
Perfect.
But it's worth it. Like, yeah. So I'm
Excellent.
gonna
She's excited
chow
about
that down. Yeah, yeah. So
Well, we're all starving, so.
so yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for attending our Warfighter Sanctuary podcast. We learned so much today. Again, everyone, remember to like, subscribe, and share. We tell great stories and of I just screwed up now.
Do it again.
My intro and my outro are the worst. I
I
want to
get
do it.
stuck sometimes on my
I
outro,
want to
too.
do it on a pre-video,
Yep.
so I do it once, and I never got to worry about it again.
That's
And
it.
I want my introduction to just say what the Warfighter Sanctuary podcast. Usually I do that. I didn't do that this time, but I want my
Yeah.
intro to say that, and then my outro could just. I'm gonna make my outro goodbye. Scott, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you coming back as a guest, and I look forward to working with you in the future and going on your podcast
You're going to be
and
on my
presenting
podcast.
at the
Absolutely,
Black
my
Box.
friend. Absolutely.
Take care, brother.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
We're out.
That wraps up another episode of Warfighter Sanctuary. Thank you for listening. For more information on Vetranet and the businesses featured in this podcast, be sure to check out our website at vetranet.com. That's www.Victor Echo Tango, Romeo Echo, November Echo Tango.com. Become a Patreon subscriber and get VIP access to the Blue Falcon Show, where we continue the interview with their unfiltered thoughts on a range of topics. Some serious, some trivial, always entertaining. Like and follow our Facebook page to join the community at facebook.com/groups/Vetranet. Intro music provided by Army veteran Sabo of NSA Entertainment. Post-show music provided by Marine veteran Justin Martin of JLM Entertainment. Voiceover provided by Marine veteran Mark Denstead of voicedbymark.com. Until next time, remember, hiring a veteran is thanking a veteran. Thank you for your support.